In this morning's U.S. Bank Economic 360, a topic that's part of daily life, even the purchase of ice cream or anything else you buy, that's inflation. Prices have been relatively tame for some time, and there is some indication the Federal Reserve would like to see a bit more inflation in the coming months. For an update on where we stand and some Cincinnati-specific measures, we turn to U.S. Bank's senior equity strategist, Jim Russell, for his perspective. Jim, we always appreciate you. How are you?
Good morning. Doing great.
So let's talk about inflation. What does that mean, and how is it measured?
Well, there's a couple of different ways to measure inflation. The most common way is called the Consumer Price Index, commonly called the CPI, and some of those measures really have been trending down over the last couple of years. You can see a graph of maybe the last 25 years. You can see some volatility. A lot of the volatility, Brian, is really caused by food and energy. Economists try to strip out food and energy to kind of get a core reading. So sometimes CPI is referred to as headline, that contains all the readings, and sometimes core. There's a second measure of inflation that, frankly, we like just a little bit better. It's called the PCE. And what you see here, the PCE really determines, as opposed to the CPI, what consumers kind of sort of buy. The PCE actually measures what consumers actually do buy. And you can see that that is, frankly, at a 25-year low right now, really showing that inflation is up only 1%. I think the Fed would prefer inflation to be around 2%. So that's one of the reasons why they've been pursuing quantitative easing so aggressively.
I remember an era of very high inflation. And to me, inflation is kind of a negative thing, but it's also a necessary thing in the economy.
It is. Too low inflation is a problem. Of course, too high. As a child of the 70s, too high inflation is also a problem. So just in the middle is where we want to see that.
How does the most recent data then look in terms of the economic outlook?
Well, the inflation measures are on the low side. So low inflation, which you would think is a pretty good thing, but it really is indicative of a slow-moving economy. You can see some of the metrics right here. Headline CPI at 1.8, core CPI, again, stripping out food and energy, 1.6, and gasoline prices being one of the more volatile portions at up 6.3. The only place where we're really seeing rapid inflation, and we referred to it earlier in the program, is housing prices. Housing prices nationally are up about 12% year over year, so inflation's pretty low. But other than in housing, it really is indicative of a sluggish domestic economy, too much supply, and unfortunately not enough demand. Demand comes with a faster economic rate.
So how does the inflation in Cincinnati compare with other parts of the country?
It's an interesting dynamic in terms of comparison. Cincinnati is a very affordable place to live, especially here in the Midwest. What we have thrown up here is the national average indexed at 100. Cincinnati about 7% or so less than the national average. We have a couple of other cities that I think folks are familiar with as well. Chicago at 116, New York at a whopping 216, and St. Louis at kind of in that Cincinnati range at 90. So that includes food, energy, transportation, housing, and a few other items. So again, a very affordable place to live. Cincinnatians ought to take heart there.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that we love about it so much.
Yes, sir.
Well, Jim, thank you so much to you and U.S. Bank.
Yes, sir. Thank you.